Welcome everyone. Welcome teachers, administrators and staff, parents and supporters of education. Thank you for your dedication to our children's future, to our community, and to our economic development. The energy you all brought here today is phenomenal. And we've got a great lineup of speakers that are equally dedicated to the policies and programs that enhance our education system for all children and adults in Fairfax County and the Commonwealth of Virginia. My name is Patricia Luna, and I represent Lee District on the Education Committee. Before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to acknowledge our host committee. First, James Hale and John Thevos, who are with the Coordinated Campaign Field Organizing Committee. And if the other organizers could please all raise their hand as well. Thank you so much for organizing today. Please welcome Mark Sickles.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. I want to thank all of our teachers for what they do every day to help our kids compete in today's economy. And that's what we need. We need to stay competitive. We need the best schools in the country right here in Virginia. And that's what we're going to get when we elect Democrats, because that is our number one priority. I want to recognize my former colleague, Jim Diller here. Say hello, Jim. Jim. How many years were you there, Jim?
32.
32 years, and he was on the other side, but he was a person who always put education first. The number one thing, he's actually an employee of our fine school system here in Fairfax County and could always be counted on doing the right thing. 2 years ago, we have a 2-year budget in Virginia, and we put it together 2 years ago, and it came out onto the floor of the House of Delegates with a $620 million cut to K through 12 education. That's what the House of Delegates gives you if you leave them on their own. Fortunately, that cut did not make it into law because of our strong, at the time we had 22 Democratic senators, and so that kind of went away. But there is a bias against, on the other side, even with some of my friends, against expanding what we need to do, because what does business know we need to do? What does educational research know we need to do? We need to expand learning to earlier than 5 years old. We need our kids to be able to be prepared to go to school when they get there, and now educating 4-year-olds has got to be a priority, and then earlier than that too, but not cutting Head Start, but making Head Start work better and making a full, rigorous, if you can put it that way, 4-year-old education for every child in this state. So that's what we hope to do and move toward as we go. It's expensive, but we've got to find a way to do it. This is a big election. I mean, we have a stark contrast on either side. One of the things that the candidate for governor has said and told everybody, I've heard it in a speech from myself that he gave, is he wants the government to be, when he leaves Cuccinelli after 4 years of government, he wants less government. Now that sounds great to some people, but what that really means is less schools, less education, less in higher education. We are in a situation right now that we don't know how to fund higher education for every student in Virginia that is qualified to go to college. Right now, I'm very much a strong supporter of our community colleges and the partnership that they've had with our 4-year schools to make sure that when you go into community college, and half of Fairfax County's high school graduates, 1/2, go to Northern Virginia Community College when they graduate. And they can now go there and decide what school they want to transfer to, and they can take that curriculum, and if they succeed, they can be automatically admitted. But, I think that's great for a lot of people, but to me, I would rather have a 4-year experience available to every student who wanted it, so they could go away from home and afford to go away from home and concentrate for 4 years in one of our 16 4-year colleges in Virginia, or a private school. So we've got a stark choice here. We've got a person who is in the tradition of what we're seeing across the river in Washington, D.C., someone who has drawn lines in the sand in his political career, a person who says that, you know, you may not agree with everything that I stand for, but you'll give me credit for standing up for what I believe. That's the Cuccinelli approach until he started campaigning. Took a few polls and found out that actually isn't going to work. There's only so far he can get with that. And now, with 51% unapproval in public policy polls or in public scientific polls, he is trying to persuade people now that he's a good, warm person. He's going to be good for our economy, good for education, and that I'm a new person. Come on over to the other side. But on the other hand, we've got somebody we know just by his nature is somebody who wants to bring people together. It's in his blood. Last year, when we had a stark contrast on the long process to pass a much-needed, desperately needed transportation bill, Terry McAuliffe studied up on the bill. He made sure he knew what was in it. He came and talked to our caucus twice during the process and urged us, once he learned what was in the bill, what was going on, to support the bill. On the other side, Ken Cuccinelli was actually on the phone calling our colleagues on the other side saying, what are you doing? You cannot be doing this, raising these funds, even though they're desperately needed after 27 years. He's actually lobbying against the bill. The governor's bill, the speaker's bill, majority leader's bill, but Cuccinelli was not voting for it. So that kind of reminds you of the kind of situation we have across the river right now. So I'm hoping that all of us will dedicate the next 29 days, full time, essentially, all your spare time and more, to getting our Democratic candidates elected, our slate elected. You know, we have 37 challengers and open seat candidates across the state, pressuring the Republicans, coming out with an alternative to what they're offering. And that's the first time ever, and it is that we've had that many. And it has really put pressure on all of you. I know many of you get phone calls all the time asking for money, and I think people are tired of it. But if you can afford a little more this next little bit, please open up your wallet one more time. When one of these candidates calls you, write them a check so that we can be out there. So thanks for coming out today. I know we've got some important education speakers coming up, people that I look to tell me what to do in Richmond, where we should be going, what's going on here in Fairfax County, making sure that our cost of competing in Northern Virginia doesn't get taken away like the governor proposed last time. You know, we need to stand firm. We need to elect people that are going to put education at the top of their duty list when they get elected to General Assembly. So thank you very much for coming. Work hard. Let's get some victories on November 5th. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see this turnout. Thank you for sharing this sunny afternoon with us. As Patricia said, I am Tammy Darnack Kofax. I am the lead district representative to the school board. I am a parent in the system, and this year I am serving as the vice chair. I see two of my colleagues have joined us. Thank you both for coming. At-large member Ryan McAuliffe is back there. And my friend and colleague from Mason District, Sandy Evans. My colleagues and I really know that here in Fairfax, our teachers are the cornerstone for our success. We believe that you are the reasons we are so successful, and we thank you for coming out today. What I want to do is give you a brief update of where we are in Fairfax County at the start of the school year and why I am giving my support to Terry McAuliffe, who will be our next governor of Virginia. So I am excited to talk about his plans. I've heard Terry say time and time again that providing a top-notch education is the single most important thing we can do to build a strong Virginia. And we here in Fairfax County, we know that that's true, because we know that the #1 reason businesses come to Fairfax County is because of our strong school system. And we have lots to be proud of here in Fairfax County. On a personal note, as Patricia said, I am the parent. I have a freshman at Edison High School, and my son graduated this past June. So I'm mentioning that now because I believe he helped to contribute to some of these statistics. Fairfax County class of 2013, we had the highest graduation rate in the U.S. amongst the nation's 50 largest school systems. We had an 80% graduation rate with this cohort. Virginia had a 77% rate, and the national average was 74%. The Fairfax County class of 2013, they also outperformed their peers in the Virginia and the national SAT standards. And because we are Fairfax, we know that the class of 2014 is right behind, and right now we are already boasting 220 national merit semifinalists this year. So we have lots to be proud of here in Fairfax. In addition, here in Lee District, we have the Teacher of the Year. The Fairfax County Teacher of the Year came here from Lee District. We now found out a few weeks ago that she is now the Region 4 winner of Teacher of the Year. Her name is Melissa Porforio, and she is a first-grade teacher at Crestwood Elementary School, and I will be one of her guests this Friday as she competes for the Virginia State Teacher of the Year down in Richmond. So that's very good news, because Crestwood Elementary is a school that has lots of challenges, and she is making a difference there with that principal there, and we are so pleased to have her as part of Lee District. And, you know, my good news, I could really go on and on about it, but the reality is our good news is part of the reason we have challenges. One of the biggest challenges we have right now is the growth we are experiencing as a school system. Parents want their kids in our schools. And so I want to give you some data points. From 2006 through 2012, our student population grew by more than 16,000 students. And to give you some perspective on that, that's a growth of 17 students per day, and we've had to add an additional 139 classrooms each year to continue to keep up with this growth. And that growth is expected to continue over the next 5 years. And of course, student growth, it requires system growth. This year alone, we've already hired 2,000 new teachers, and we also have to have systems in place to transport and feed these kids. So we have over 1,500 buses that provide 22.8 million bus rides a year. On average, we serve 84,000 meals to our students. And the profile of who today's Fairfax County student is, they come from over 200 countries. They speak over 160 languages, and last year, 50% of those entering kindergarten in our system were speakers of English was their second language. So those are some of the challenges that we see through the growth. But what's refreshing to me is that when I listen to Terry McAuliffe, when he talks about education, he's aware of these challenges and he has a plan to meet them. He talks about reforming SOLs. He says we need to focus on progress made with our children. Many of you are teachers, so you know what I mean. But for those of you who aren't, just indulge me for a second. We get a child in our schools here that comes in at 3rd grade. They are new to our system, perhaps to our country, to our region, and that teacher works very hard during that year because that child, even though he comes in at a 3rd grade level, perhaps his literacy skills are only at a 1st grade or a kindergarten level. Well, that teacher works that year, and they bring them up 2 grade levels. But the way we are testing our students now, that student will test as a failure, and that teacher will test as a failure. Terry understands that this can no longer happen, and we have to reform our SOLs in order to change this. He also talks about supporting our schools because he understands that many of the problems we see in our schools today cannot be solved by schools alone. They are issues of poverty, they are issues of hunger, lack of medical care, family illiteracy. He knows that these are school, local, and state issues. and that we must join forces together to do this work. We can't point fingers at each other. We need to say we need to come together and we need to work together to solve these problems because they are big problems in our local schools. He wants to increase support of pre-K and childhood education. He wants to broaden the reach of the preschool initiative that we do have in place but has shrunk over the years. He knows that for every dollar we spend on pre-K today, somewhere between $7 and $14 will be saved later on because our children won't need as much remediation. They may not be incarcerated. They may not experience teen pregnancy. These are all the results that happen if our children don't get the education they need. And finally, Terry talks about what you all know and you want to do. He wants to let our teachers teach. Yeah. He wants to get rid of the administrative tasks so you can focus in on the job that you were meant to do, and that's teach our kids. So I just want to thank you all for coming out today. I hope you can dedicate some time to supporting Terry over the next 29 days, and I appreciate your willingness to listen to me as well about the points on Fairfax County. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I can be reached at tdkofax@fcps.edu. Thank you all.
My name is Jessica Bowser, and I'm an educator. Today, I'm here to represent the Fairfax Education Association as well as our state affiliate, the Virginia Education Association. I began my teaching career in a Title I school in a 4th grade classroom right here in Fairfax County. Now, like most really young and brand new teachers, I was excited and I thought I was going to change the world. But nothing could have prepared me for my first year experience or for a student I had in my class that year named Kevin. Kevin's parents had immigrated to the United States a few years before. They didn't speak English. Kevin had 6 brothers and sisters, and they were living in a project behind the school. Kevin faced the realities of poverty every day, but poverty wasn't the only challenge Kevin had to face. Like other kids in my class, Kevin faced challenges of poverty, but he also had his own personal challenges. Kevin had autism, and so he struggled in the regular classroom, and he struggled to make friends. And I knew that Kevin needed to have an educational experience that was unique to his needs and that Kevin did not need to be taught to a test. At the end of the school year, the SOL test was administered, and Kevin was so overwhelmed by the test that he had a meltdown, crawled underneath his desk, and refused to come out to take the test. I knew that Kevin's test scores would inaccurately reflect his ability as a student. I also knew that those test scores would inaccurately reflect my ability as a teacher. Now, Kevin is just one of many students I had in my class that year. The students in my class had lots of unique needs, and they deserve to have a teacher with the professional autonomy to make decisions that were best for them. So Terry McAuliffe knows that a one-size-fits-all education approach just doesn't work. His plan to reform the SOL tests means that students like Kevin will not have to crawl under their desk to hide from the test. Terry also believes in investing in our teachers. I don't know if you guys know this, but the teachers in Virginia today are amongst the lowest paid in the nation. What message does that send about our values here? We need to invest in our teachers so that we can have a high-quality workforce. We know that our teachers' working conditions are our students' learning conditions. I believe that it's my responsibility as an educator to ensure that the people who make decisions that affect our classrooms value and hear our teachers' voices. I'm excited to support Terry McAuliffe, and I also believe that it's my responsibility in the next 30 days to tell everybody why I'm voting for Terry McAuliffe. Also, Mark Herring and Ralph Northam, and my delegate Mark Sickles and Stacy Kincaid for sheriff, for our community, our schools, and our children. Thank you.
I want to point out just to kind of tie together some of Terry McAuliffe's education platform. We have a sheet that we put together that talks about all of the issues that you heard today and all of his ideas for change. And if you want to take one home with you, you can share that with your network of teachers, administrators, neighbors, friends. Also, you can welcome to take us a yard sign with you and some bumper stickers as well. Everything, I just want to also mention that you can link to Facebook for this flyer, so if you don't feel comfortable taking it to your schools and passing it out, you can Facebook all of your friends. Thanks again for coming.